start the recording? Yes,
Ma'am,
it
the
has
recording has
started.
started.
Thank you, thank you. So we begin with the chapter The Hitchhiker. Now, there was this incident on 23rd July when a Delhi police reported that the driver who gave a lift to a person, he was beaten up by them and robbed. So now we should need to take precautions. So there are two headings given here. We should help a hitchhiker because now what are the reasons why we should help the people who are asking for a lift? So the reason could be a real need, could be a medical emergency, and could be old. The person who's asking for a lift could be old. So in that case, the humanity says that we should give them a lift. Now, we should be wary of offering a lift because the reasons which stop us from giving a lift is they could be robbers, they could be criminals, and they could be fraud. Okay, so out of these reasons, anything, if we do that, then it could harm our life and property. Now, here's a story which we'll read. There was the narrator, he had a new car, a big BMW, and it ran at a good speed of 129 mph, and it had terrific acceleration. Acceleration means pickup. The speed was tremendous. The body was pale blue, that means it was a light blue car. The seats inside were dark blue, and they were made of leather of the finest quality. The leather quality was very good. Okay. The windows were electrically operated, and so was the sunroof. That means the windows automatically went up and down as you just pulled up a switch. And so was the sunroof, that means the top roof of the car. It could be moved off. The radio aerial popped up when I switched on the radio and disappeared when I switched it off. So the radio antenna to which the radio connection or any channel on a audio level is connected is through an antenna. Now that antenna was also uh, it popped up when the radio was switched on and it went inside when it was switched off. Okay. Now the powerful engine growled and grunted impatiently at slow speed, but at 60 miles an hour, it began to purr with pleasure. So this shows that the car was of high acceleration, was of great speed, and when it ran on a low average, when it ran on a low speed, it made some noise. But once the speed was gained, that means after 60 kilometers per mile, this whole process became very smooth and very easy to move around. I was driving up to London by myself. It was a lonely June day. They were haymaking in the fields and there were buttercups along both sides of the road. Just a second, children. Which class are you from? And what time did I tell you? What time did I tell you to enter? Wait for 20 at 12:20. I'll allow you inside. Okay. So I was driving up to London by myself. He was going to London. Please underline this. It was a lonely June day. So please make sure it was a June day. They were haymaking. That means all the stalks in the fields were gathered together. And there were buttercups along both sides of the road. I was driving along at 70 miles an hour, leaning back comfortably in my seat. Ahead of me, I saw a man coming a lift. So now, as he was moving, he was comfortable in his car, enjoying the journey, and he was running at a smooth speed of 70 kilometers per hour, 70 miles an hour. So then he saw that ahead of him there was a man who was coming for a lift mangra, so something like this. Okay. Okay. I touched the brake and brought the car to a stop beside him. I always stopped for hitchhikers. I knew just how it used to feel to be standing on the side of a country road watching the cars go by. I hated the drivers for pretending they didn't see me, especially the ones with big cars and three empty seats. So now he's telling and narrating his incidents, which he said he often used to give the lift to the people who were in need, and he never hesitated to do so. And because he knew that how it felt when he had to ask for a lift, and there were cars running all by themselves in a countryside where you just stand and the vehicles just pass by without seeing you also. That means the vehicles ignoring you, especially when they had big seats, three empty seats, and only a driver was going. Even then, they never stopped for people to give lift. Now the hitchhiker poked his head through the open window and said, "Going to London, Governor?" So now he said, the person who was asking for a lift, he treated him in a very nice tone. Governor, that means it's an old fashioned way of saying a man who's in a position of authority over you. That means he's all in all boss kind of a thing for you. Now here, why is he being a boss? Because he was the one who would have given the lift to that hitchhiker. So he asked me, "Are you going to London?" Yes, I said, "Jump in." So he asked me, "Yes, I'm going there. You can come over." He got into my car and I drove. So both of them started the journey together. He was a small, ratty faced man with grey teeth. Please underline this. This is the facial description or the physical description of the man who sat in the car. He was a small statured. He had ratty faced. That means he was a very squeaky face and grey teeth. His eyes were dark and quick and clever, like a rat's eye. So that is why he's calling him a ratty face, because his eyes were very quick and moving and trying to grasp everything. It was very clever eyes, and his ears were slightly pointed at the top. So he had that ear also very pointing at the top. He had a cloth cap in his head, and he was wearing a grey colored jacket with enormous. Now this man was wearing a cloth on his head and a grey colored jacket which had huge pockets in them. Okay, the grey jacket together with the quick eyes and the pointed ears made him look more than anything like some sort of a huge human rat. So now the narrator is telling that with all that dress that he wore and all that appearance that he carried, this man looked as if he was a big version of a huge rat. Okay, बड़ा सा चूहा हो जैसे कि. What part of London are you headed for? I asked him. Now he wanted to know from the hitchhiker. The narrator said, "Which part of London are you going to?" "I'm going right through London and out the other side," he said. "I'm going to Epsom for the races." So now the person said, "I'm going to the I'm going to cross through London and going to Epsom. This is the place where some kind of a race is going to be held. I wish I were going with you," I said. "I love betting on horses." So it was a horse race he was going to watch at, and he loved betting. So the narrator also said even he would have wished to go there. "I never bet on horses," he said. "I don't even watch them run. That's a stupid, silly business." "Then why do you go?" I asked. So now the hitchhiker said, "No, I never go and bet on horses. In fact, I find it very silly to do so." So now the narrator said, "Then if you don't like horse races, then why are you going there?" He didn't seem to like that question. Now the narrator, when he asked, "Why are you going there?" So now this man, he did not like this question. His little ratty face went absolutely blank, and he sat there staring straight ahead at the road, saying nothing. So now this man, the hitchhiker, he did not reply to it, and his ratty face it stood still and blank. He did not answer anything. I decided not to question him anymore, and so the narrator, he decided that he would not put up any more questions. "I'm sorry," I said. "It's none of my business what you do. The trouble is that I am a writer, and most writers are terribly noisy." So now the narrator started the conversation again, and he said, "Yes, I know it's not my business to know what you are up to, but just because I'm a writer, I would just like maybe to make a little noise. Noise means I'm very talkative." "You write books?" he asked, and I said, "Yes." "Okay. Writing books is okay," he said. what I call skilled trade. I'm in a skilled trade too. The folks I despise are those that spend all their lives with no skill in them at all. You see what I mean? So now he's trying, the narrator is testing the narrator, and he's saying, you are a person with a skilled, no, wait for 5 minutes. So you are a skilled person. You have a art of just writing, and in the same way, I also have a skill trade. I also deal with a trade which needs a lot of skill, and I despise. That means I hate all those people who spend their time, their life in doing the routine jobs. Okay, with no skill in them. You see what I mean? So he asked, do you understand what I'm saying? So the narrator said, yes. The secret of life, he said, is to become very, very good at something that's very, very hard to do. So now the narrator said, yes, I understand. And he said, okay, the secret of life is to be a happy person is that you should be a very, very good person in what you do. And you should develop that art in whatever you take up. Like you, I said. So now the narrator said, it's just like you, maybe. Exactly. You and me both. So now the hitchhiker praised him also and he said, yes, both of us are skilled people and we work in this skillful way of life. What makes you think that I'm any good at my job? I asked. There's an awful lot of bad writers around. So now the narrator said, why are you including me as a good person in my skill? Because how do you know that I'm a good writer? Because there are many writers who just write for the sake of writing. You wouldn't be driving about in a car like this if you weren't no good at it, he answered. So now this hitchhiker said, you see, why I call you a good writer is because if you would not have been a good writer, you would have not been moving in this car, which is quite expensive, okay, BMW. So this was the reply. It wasn't cheap. What can she do? What can she do flat out? He asked. 129 miles an hour, I told him. So now he's talking about the car. He said, this car isn't very cheap, it's very expensive. And then he asked me how good the speed is. This question, what can she do flat out? That means in one go, what is the speed it can pick up? So the narrator replies that 129 miles an hour it can go on smoothly. I'll bet she won't do it. I'll bet she will. So now both of them started betting. Yeah, I think it will go. And the hitchhiker says, no, I don't think so, it will go. Opener up then and prove it, he said. He said, okay, then you speed up and let's see. I pressed my foot on the accelerator. The big car leaped forward as though she'd been stung. So now the big car, as he put on the leg on the accelerator to increase the speed, the big car just leaped over and ran as if it had got stung. Okay, lovely, he cried. Beautiful, keep going. So now the writer wanted to keep on going. The hitchhiker enjoyed it and he said, yeah, just keep up the speed. We flashed past several cars as though they were standing still. So the car picked up such a great speed that all the other vehicles appeared as if they were just standing and just passing by. Okay, we stop here. We stop the recording. Or even I only can stop.